Hello, I'm Derek, and welcome back to the Change the Game, Start Again podcast. This podcast is designed for busy professionals looking to address their approach to fitness. In this week's episode, we're going to be joined by special guest Jenny Devonshire, and this week's focus is how to beat the back to work blues. So Jenny is a psychologist in training. She's a personal trainer, she's a Pilates and yoga instructor, and Jenny is the founder of the performance-focused workplace wellness portal, Pause to Perform. So let's get her in. She's currently in the green room, and there she is. Hello, Jenny. How are we doing?
I'm very well. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Welcome to the podcast. So, Jenny, you did an article not too long ago in the Mirror called, what's the title? Beating Back to Work Blues.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, so I thought we would, because of the way COVID's ended up now, a lot of people are back to work as of this week. You know, they've spent a lot of time just at home. But a lot of people are heading back to the offices this week. They've got to change their routines. So I thought this is a perfect time to bring you on and then just go over that article for the people that haven't read it and just pull some bits out and put it on the podcast. So that sounds good to you?
Sounds
Right,
good to me.
so the way I tend to work this podcast, I tend to have like 3 big topics and then we just dive into each one. So topic 1 is going to be talking about workplace absence. So I'm someone that's never actually been in a workplace. You know, my workplaces were, you know, I was in the army for 8 years and then it's been in the gyms, in the fitness industry. But so I've never been actually in the corporate workplace, but you've got experience of that. And then you switched over to PT after a 10, 12-year career in the corporate world. So you definitely know more about me. And now you work with people to help them perform in the workplace, right?
Yeah.
So my understanding is people used to struggle at work with lower back pain, and that was the biggest absence for like missing work and, you know, the struggles.
Well, it still is,
going to,
I would say.
yeah, but also stress, anxiety and depression is very much a big factor these days.
That's right, yes. There's been a massive, well, I think mental health has become very much a focus. People are much more aware of it. But also there's been a massive rise in mental health problems since the pandemic, because obviously it's been a very stressful time. And you know, people have been isolated, working from home. There's a lot of job insecurity. You know, people dealing with working in tiny environments, dealing with homeschooling and maybe another partner there all the time. There's no space. So like that, problems have basically escalated. And people, the problem is because people are worried about their jobs, they tend to kind of like push it down. And there's a thing called presenteeism, when people are there, but they're not really performing because they are sort of suffering from burnout and stress. So it's, basically taking that time. If you are really struggling, seeking help, either from the GP and getting referred, or just speaking to your bosses and just explain to them, you know, you are struggling, and then just look to see what can be done about it. I mean, there is support there. They don't want to lose their staff. And, you know, you being signed off work sick for however many months is like, you know, they'd much rather sort it out early. And so just speaking to people is probably the best thing you can do.
Yeah, and I guess little changes to your day and little changes to your approach to work and your approach to your health, mindset and performance go a big way, right? And that's what you've been trying to do with Pause Perform.
Yes, definitely. So exercise, it's a massive thing for mood. It's been shown in lots of studies to help people feel better. You know, you've got your serotonin released and you've got dopamine, which is more of an actual motivator. But yeah, it's all those kind of feel-good hormones that are associated with exercise. Also getting away from your desk. And like you said before, back pain was a problem, or it still is a problem. So, and it's even worse, even more so now, because people are sort of not working at necessarily the optimum desk setup. So that's not kind of another thing.
Like I know so many people, like my clients, are just like, yeah, well, I'm currently working on the kitchen side at the moment, and I've got this really rubbish chair. I'm like, you've got a really good job. You're going to be doing this for a long time. You need to invest in £100 chair at least.
Well, I went to an osteopath actually, and they were saying that there's been a massive rise in musculoskeletal problems, and it's like people working in the bed. Like apparently they called it, was it the prawn? I think they rolled like on their side typing, you know, just terrible things, which obviously are going to have really bad knock-on effects or long-term effects.
Yeah, I'm struggling sitting in this chair. This was I only got this in at the beginning of lockdown. I think I need to up my chair game. Right. Okay. So let's keep on track with that. So let's look at changes people can make. You know, so from this podcast, I only ever talk about training, mobility, nutrition.
Hmm.
So let's kind of dive in a few other areas that people could
Hmm.
use to tackle beating back to work blues. So having a morning routine. So picking out
Yeah.
the things that you put on your article in
Hmm.
the Mirror. Having a morning routine was one of them, and
Yeah.
I've known you for quite a long time, and I know you love a good morning routine. So
Yes.
so
Well,
let
I'm.
so let's so let's talk about why it's important, and then we'll talk
Hmm.
about tips, things you do, things I do. So, like, what's the main importance of having a good morning routine? It's like it's not to be rushed, right? Because
Hmm.
a rushed morning is a stressful morning.
Very stressful. Yeah, well, if you think about like a lot of the problem is it's kind of a knock-on effect from the night before. So a lot of people are going to bed too late. Either
Hmm.
they feel like they're working really late, which is another problem. So they feel like they want a bit of their evening. So they end up going to bed too late. Then they're tired in the morning. So you're starting in this stress state. So your cortisol levels, which is like your stress hormone, higher in the morning. That's because we need it to kind of get going to wake up. So it's not a bad thing. But then if you're layering more stress on top of that, the unnecessary stress of rushing and things like that, especially I think now that people are going back to the office, if they're having to do that commute that they haven't had to do for sort of however
Hmm.
a year, 2 years or what have you, that can
Yeah,
be a
yeah,
very stressful period trying to get out the door. So yeah, morning routine is really important. I mean, I know like a lot of people struggle with this, but getting to bed, allowing yourself 8 hours to be able to
hmm
sleep, even if you struggle with sleep, allowing making sure you've got 8 hours in your bed. That's like a key one. Even if your morning routine is really short, I mean, I have the luxury of being able to do quite an extensive one, but then I do sometimes wake up at like 5:30. But anyway,
hmm
yeah. So basically, even if it's 3 minutes of just quiet to yourself, I mean, I do love getting a coffee and getting back into bed with it. And so if you can, I know with young children it can be difficult, but trying to
yeah.
have just 3 minutes to yourself. One of the things you can do is journaling. It's a thing called morning pages, which is basically when you're not thinking about it. It's meant to be like your subconscious coming out, and you just write whatever comes into your mind. And it's a way of getting all your worries out before your conscious mind has taken over. So it's like basically just a dump on the page, just write whatever's there. Another thing you could do is just breathing, just focusing on your
Hmm.
breath for like 2 minutes, 3 minutes. You could do that in bed. And
Yeah.
if you can, if you like, you want to get into meditation, Headspace is a really good app, and it's I think they do a free trial. Insight Timer is completely free, and then there's also Calm, and I think that's another one you pay for. But anyway, if you want someone to guide you, if you're someone who's quite got a busy mind
Hmm.
like me, I like the guided meditation. Or like just a stretching routine, again, like 2 to 3 minutes, just get your body ready before you
Hmm.
try and just go full pelt into your day. And that just kind of sets you up. So you've got that time to quieten your mind and just, set yourself up for a day where you're not starting just with stress to pile on more stress throughout your day.
Yeah, yeah. Like when I have early morning clients like myself, like if I have a 7 a.m. client, I could wake up at 6:30 and be
Mm,
ready for 7. I've got a gym in my garden. I can run outside for wake up 6:30, shower, change, be outside for 7. But I so much prefer waking up at 6 and having
mhm.
that time.
Yeah,
Because I think sometimes you are asking a lot from your body from just waking up to going to do something
yeah,
straight away. If you wanted to do fitness in the morning, having that extra half an hour before you tackle fitness makes a big
yeah,
difference. And there is so much time in the day if you start it early.
yeah.
There's so much to be gained if you wake up at 6:30 compared to
Hmm.
going to bed at 11:30. There's nothing to be
Yeah,
gained there apart from downtime with watching TV. But then
yeah,
you lose time where you could make the most of your day in the morning. My
yeah,
routine, I love. I done an episode on this last week. I love nothing more than waking up, coffee, pint of water, 20-minute stretching routine whilst I watch the news because that's my time to. You should watch the news. I like to keep up to date with stuff. So I put the news on.
yeah.
I have my stretch. I play through Instagram, and that's my 20, 30 minutes, my first half an hour every day. And then I get cracking on with work or training or whatever I need to
Hmm.
do. Um, so I always think when people listen to the podcast, they kind of it's always easy for me to say. It's always easy for us to say we should be doing
Yeah.
these things, but you've just got to take one or two things and try to make it and
Hmm.
try to apply, haven't you?
Yeah, well, I think like really the key is to go to bed earlier. That's like that will
Hmm.
solve so many problems in the morning. If
Yeah,
you're
true,
like
true.
struggling, because I know from someone who basically had insomnia for a very long time, I know what it's like to not be able to sleep. But if you're not even giving yourself the chance, if you're like only in bed for sort of 5, 6 hours, there's no way you're going to get 8 hours sleep. And like
Yeah.
even if it's like you start slowly, maybe go to bed like half an hour earlier to see how it goes, and so you not feel like you're cheating yourself, and also to kind of reset your circadian rhythm. So otherwise, if you try and change your bedtime too drastically, then there's no way you're going to sleep because you're used to sleeping in late and so it's just a
Yeah.
gradual thing. But
Uh,
yeah.
yeah, I remember in lockdown, the first lockdown, when work was a bit different back in April
Yeah.
2020. I was staying up to midnight, 12:30, 1 o'clock, just into because my day was different then. I didn't have a job
Yeah.
to go to, and I remember thinking, right, that's it, and I just went. I went quite extreme. I just set my alarm
Yeah.
for 6:30 every day because I was like, very soon I'm gonna be so tired. I'm gonna want to go to
Yeah.
bed at ten
Yeah.
thirty, and then that just happens, and then now I'm
Yeah.
just always a 6:30 person. Uh, what's your routine?
My routine is ridiculous. So, well, as I've been
So,
waking up, I sort of wake up at 5:30, 6, but I do go to bed at 9 o'clock. And this all started because, so basically, like I said, I used to have terrible insomnia. Did a yoga teacher training in India, and because we didn't have our phones or TV or anything, you kind of like go, well, there's nothing to do. And we had to be up at 5:30 to meditate and do this morning session anyway. So anyway, got into going to bed really early. And then when I got back, because it was the first time I've ever really slept, I was like, right, I need to keep this going. So I was like, I've had very strict rules since then. After 9 o'clock, I don't have TV, phone. I turn it all off, and just read if I can't sleep or listen to an audiobook. So I go to sleep really early, which means I wake up really early. So I have plenty of
yeah,
time for this ridiculous routine. So I'll wake up, I'll get a coffee, get back into
yeah,
bed, and then I do the journaling, which I just said about. So whatever.
hmm
Sometimes I just write down my dreams because they're all a bit crazy and they're quite funny. So I do the journaling. Then I get up and I've got a red light, which is really good. It's good for, it's a bit like the sunlight. So it's good in the morning to get you going. As everyone says, like, get in the sun, get the sun in your eyes, and then that will kind of help you to wake up. And it also sets your circadian rhythm so you sleep better. So anyway, I get under my red light and I meditate for 10 minutes with Headspace, like I said before.
nice.
Then I put my red light upright and I sit in front of it. So it's on my back because it's good for your mitochondria, which is a health thing.
Yeah,
And then I sit there and have another coffee, and then I do Wim Hof breathing, which has
yeah,
got loads of other health benefits. And
yeah.
then I normally do like a yoga mobility, but only like 10-15 minutes. And then if I'm teaching, I'll teach after that, or else I'll go to the gym, and then that's me done.
What,
But yeah, it is a
what,
bit extreme.
what time do you normally teach?
8. That's
8.
like my
Yeah, yeah,
earliest these days. Yeah, because I mean, before the pandemic, I would be like sometimes leaving the house at like sort of 6:37, or even
yeah,
earlier when I used to teach spin at like 7 a.m. So like now my times, like I've kind of changed how I do things so that I can have my morning and try and like back end it a bit more. So that's the
yeah,
luxury of being able to change your hours a little bit.
yeah, yeah. Right then. So we've got morning routine. Starts the
Mm.
night before, and then you just gotta try
Mhm.
to make time for yourself in the morning. That
Yeah.
extra
Oh.
time to have a coffee, have your own time, journaling if you want, stretching if you can, but having
Mhm.
a moment in the morning to set your day up. Yep. Go on.
I
You
would
was about
also
to say.
say the other thing is like really important is getting everything ready the night before makes it a hell of a lot
Hmm.
easier. So you save time. So like if you were going to go to the gym, get your gym kit packed the night before. If you're going to make a packed lunch, make it the day before. Just set everything up so you've got as little to do in the morning to add extra time, just so you can do that.
Oh
And it
yeah.
makes a massive difference.
I was talking about this last week because I've got a new Lumi lamp. A light lamp that
Hmm.
as it counts me down at the night. It's nice and red at night, and then in the morning, it's just a dimmer switch that lights up the room. So I did that in last week's podcast, and I was talking about training in the morning. And if I'm cycling, my shorts are out, my socks are out,
Yeah.
my heart rate monitor's out, my iPad's thing set, everything's plugged in, everything's good to go. So I do not have to
Mhm.
think. I remember
Yeah.
like if if you're going for a run and you can't find a certain running top because it's cold and you're pulling your whole wardrobe out, that's
Mhm.
stress and a waste of time, and time's
Yeah.
never on your side. Yeah,
And
100%
also
you
an
should prep.
excuse. It's
An
easy to go,
excuse,
oh,
yeah,
I just
yeah.
won't do it.
Yeah, yeah. I had a bit like with swimming this morning, I kind of didn't want to go, but the bag was packed, just sitting on the
Yeah.
sofa, and I was like, I was there, I've just got to go, just get out the door,
Hmm.
and then once I'm there, this is where I want to be. Right then, so that's the morning. Now we're talking about the workplace. So now we've got
Hmm.
to work. You mentioned about taking breaks, and
Hmm.
sometimes it's frowned upon to take a break. So let's talk
Yeah.
about that. Talk about your experiences and kind of what you've learned about.
Well, there's a lot. Well, it's a lot to do with like leaving work. I know there's like a culture of like people having to be there, but there's really no point being there if you're not doing any work. So, but it's like more about just
Yeah,
like when you're in the office, it's easy just to show that you're working really hard, harder than anyone else, but you're actually just like playing on the internet. But so yeah, it's basically there's from like this top down level, employers and HR making it acceptable to take breaks, kind of bring it into the culture, because the brain is actually very it uses a lot of energy and it needs rest. So you
Hmm.
can only concentrate for a certain amount of time before it needs to kind of recharge. So I mean, it is a muscle. So if you think about, like, you wouldn't try and do a workout for hours and hours and hours without resting. And they've also found that if you kind of go too long without a break, you'll never be able to really recover. Whereas if you take regular breaks, let it sort of recharge, then you can keep going for longer in the long run. So
Yeah.
yeah, taking a break is really important. I think it's probably a bit easier in the workplace because you're kind of walking around a bit more. Like if you want to make a cup of tea, it's generally going to be a lot further
Mm.
away than it would be if you're in your house, unless you live in a mansion. So yeah, to take that
Yeah.
thing of, and also, like, I found a lot of people, rather than, I think, everything being on all these meetings on Zoom, is like, you're just sat in one position. Whereas if you're in a normal workplace, you have to go and talk to someone. You sort of leave your desk, and at least you're
Mm.
sort of getting away from your computer. You're doing something different. But I mean, ideally, it would be. I mean, if in an ideal world, you'd get outside. But even if it's just getting out, making a cup of tea, and just being away from your computer and not worrying about that time, just sort of
Is,
try not
is,
to
is,
think about work.
is there a time frame that we concentrate the most in? Is there like a time in split of like how much work you should do? Because
You know,
I know we've talked about different methods before, like was it the
mm,
25/5?
yeah, the
Uh,
Pomodoro technique. Yeah,
yeah, that's
that's
it.
one
Yeah.
of them. That's meant to be quite good. So basically, yeah,
So
you do 20 to 25 minutes of work, and then you have 5 minute rest. You do 4 rounds of that, and then you take a 15 to 20 minute break, and that's how you sort of split your day. But there's another one that I read about, and they were saying sort of 60 to 90 minutes and then take a break. It's another one. So it's just, as
mm,
long as it's not really working for more than, I would say, yeah, 90 minutes, let's say, maximum focused work. I know it's not always easy if you're in like a long meeting or what have you. But I mean, yeah, it's trying to get out to people that this is actually the most efficient way to work. And in the long run, you'll be more productive. Because, like,
yeah.
once you get tired, I mean, I'm sure a lot of people can resonate when you're trying to work on a task, but your brain is just not functioning as well as it could have or could be, and then you sort of have a break, you come back, and then it's suddenly much easier, and that's because you've had that time to recharge, and then everything sort of just works much better again. So yeah,
Yeah.
breaks are very important.
Okay, so then on the back end of breaks, you put the title of "Go Green," so
Hmm.
actually getting away from the workplace, and people
Yeah.
struggle with this through lockdown. They
Hmm.
start, and by green we mean get out, don't we? You mean get
Well,
outside, get
but
away.
ideally in a green space, because
Yeah.
nature, being around like plants and things, have been shown to have extra benefits. But just outside is like sunlight, vitamin D,
Mm,
something that most people are deficient in, and that's really important for your mood, and also for your calcium and phosphorus, I think it is. So for bones as well. So it's very
mhm.
important. And but yeah, getting outside. I mean, London's not ideal because we're not exactly fresh air, but at least you are in air, like, actual oxygen outside rather than sort of aircon being pumped around the office.
This podcast is worldwide, by the way. This
Yeah,
is,
of course.
of course, yeah.
Well, we are in
Uh,
London, and so yeah. But if you're lucky
yeah,
enough to live in the country, even better.
but yeah, a lot of people were struggling. Oh, I know a lot of people were struggling in lockdown because they didn't get out. They didn't have that
Hmm.
commute even to the tube station. So then
Yeah,
people started to walk in, and that was a phase that people got really
yeah.
into, and then
That's
they
all you're
backed
allowed to
off it.
do.
Yeah, but I think there was a positive with that because people could
Mm,
see they could walk. They found
yeah,
walking routes, and then they
yeah.
realised how far they could go in like a 20-minute loop.
Mhm.
And people started making 20-minute, 30-minute, hour loops from
Yeah,
their house. And I think
yeah.
it's important they continue with that because that was actually doing them a lot of good that they probably didn't even
Yeah.
realise.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
walking is one of the best exercises because it's low impact, so you're not going to like injure yourself. Being out in nature has been shown to have like so many health benefits. It's actually shown that if you go for a walk, particularly somewhere green, it's actually it really helps to boost your concentration levels. So if you could go for a walk in your lunch break, you might find that you can actually do better with your work when you get back.
Yeah.
And yeah, and also it's better, people exercising outside or other kind of forms of exercise also really beneficial. But yeah, it's like the sunlight, nature, ideally, all those things are really good for you.
Yeah. Okay. So then you've adjusted your morning routine. You've got a good evening routine. You've adjusted your morning routine. You're trying to take breaks. You're getting
Hmm.
out and about, but you're still struggling. And if you're still struggling, you should speak out, right?
Definitely. There's no point
So
like suffering in silence because nothing's going to change. And then, like,
yeah,
the more stressed you are, then eventually you will reach a point where you can't cope anymore because you've only got so much reservoir of coping capabilities. So once you reach that point, it's not good for your health. It will result in like sort of long term, maybe chronic conditions. So the best thing is to nip it in the bud. So I know it can be very daunting, but HR are there to protect people. So if you don't have an HR, if you've got quite a small company, go to like your line manager or your boss. The best thing to do is before you go into that meeting is write down exactly what the struggles are. Like, is it that you've got too much work to do in the time that you've got? I don't know, personal situations, like if you are, like, it's a bit different now, it's kind of coming out, well, touch wood, coming out the other side. But if there are other things that you're struggling with, like if your workload is unmanageable and it's not just that you're like, it's people, the thing is, people are worried that it will look like they can't do their job, but it could be that like lots of people have taken on more work because they've lost maybe some colleagues, like jobs have been made redundant. So yeah, just work out exactly where it is that you're struggling or what you can't manage. And then also, before you go into that meeting, come up with solutions, because then it looks like you're trying to do something about it, and it makes it easier for the person you're speaking with. And and just seeing like what can be maybe delegated to someone else, what could be left until later, like we'll look at where your deadlines are, and just get really clear on the problem and what could be done, and then speak to someone, because they will want to resolve this. They don't want you to be signed off work with sickness. They don't want to lose an employee.
no,
So yeah, basically
yeah,
speak out, it will be resolved, and then you just get
yeah.
something to get clear on the problem, and just then you can move on and hopefully resolve the issue rather than just struggling.
Yeah, I mean, I don't work in this world, so I don't come across
Mhm.
this as much. Yeah, I'm a self-employed. My boss is me. I work for
Yeah,
myself.
exactly.
uh, but in the workplace now, it's like if you had this issue 15 years ago, you probably wouldn't get anywhere. But now
Mhm.
the world's moving so quick. We're under so much more challenges. People are expecting this to happen, so your bosses are ready
Mhm.
to have these conversations, right? And there's more stuff in place to help tackle them. So I guess that leads us nicely on into
Yeah.
what you do, and this ain't just a plug for what you do. This is just to talk about, like, because people probably don't realize there's platforms like this out there.
Oh
So
yeah.
let's talk
Mhm.
about Pause to Perform. Let's talk about what it
Right.
is. Um, let's talk about what you set up, why you set up, and kind of some components of it, and yeah, and how it works.
Right. Well, so Pause to Perform is a corporate wellness company designed at improving the performance of staff via sort of well-being. So, but I'm slightly different to other companies. I set up an online portal because I wanted a resource that had everything that someone would need or could like to answer all the questions of the different problems we're sort of facing. So it's got things like how to boost your motivation, boost productivity, um, things about stress, anxiety, how to improve your focus, all sorts of things. Meditations
Yeah,
on there.
Post, posture, desk
Yes.
posture. Yeah,
So I've also, because I'm from my personal training background, it's a lot, and I've worked with a lot of people with sort of injuries. That's kind of my sort of fix it, like alleviating pain was one of like the things I was like love doing. So it's like sort of quick fixes for things that are associated with desk work. So sort of neck pain, back pain, RSI, all those kind of things. And then I've got sort of mobility videos as well, just to help you move, because sitting at a desk all day is not exactly ideal. And then I've
yeah,
got some workouts, so yoga, Pilates, fitness, and a class that kind of combines all of it. So yeah, it's an online portal, and then it's like so anyone can access it anytime when they need it. And then for those things that are kind of a bit more specialist, it's got sort of places to go to. So if you are suffering from stress and anxiety, so that's
yeah.
that. And then I also do sort of workshops. I'm actually doing a workshop for HR managers on Tuesday next week, which is the 1st of February, about cultivating workplace resilience. Because resilience is really important for coping with stress. It's been shown that people who are resilient can cope with stress better than people who aren't. So that's kind of something I'm really focusing at the moment.
Oh, sorry, that's your free webinar, Developing
Free
Workplace
webinar.
Resilience. Yeah.
That's it. Yeah.
Uh, and who's that for?
Well, it's mainly for HR managers or sort of
Mhm.
employers, but even if it's an individual level, if you're interested in like kind of developing your own resilience, then it can be for you as well.
How long is it? About
It's
half an
only
hour, an
30
hour?
minutes, a little
Yeah,
introduction video just to kind of give you a few tools. And then if you're
yeah.
interested, you can either delve into it a bit further.
Okay. So I'll put links below, or wherever this is, yeah, wherever you're watching this, I'll put links somewhere in the bio. So if you are looking to jump on that webinar, you can. And then, how do people find you? LinkedIn's probably the best way to work for you, isn't
Yes.
it?
Yeah,
And you
LinkedIn's probably
post,
the best. That's where
yeah,
I generally post to these days. I try to sort of offer a mixture of tips on sort of all sorts of things like psychology based, as well as sort of well-being based, health, fitness, everything that I'm interested in. So
perfect.
yeah, Jenny Devonshire on LinkedIn.
I'll put a link in the bio as well, so people
Fabulous.
can find you. Right, perfect. I think we covered quite a few things there, and I think it'll be a good idea to leave it there. And we
Hmm.
were discussing before you jumped on, before we went live, about doing some future episode, doing one on habits, doing one
Hmm.
on nutrition in the workplace, and maybe every couple of weeks jumping on and putting doing a podcast with things that people can actually apply to their daily life. So we'll do one on habits in a couple of weeks' time, and then one
Excellent.
on uh, nutrition in the workplace. I think that would be quite a good episode to dive
Yes.
into. Perfect. Well, thanks for coming on, Jenny. I will put all your details below. So please give Jenny a follow on LinkedIn because you will love her page. She puts a lot of effort into her post and graphics and stuff as she posts on there. So yeah, please check that out. Thanks for listening. If you're watching this on YouTube, make sure you subscribe and like the video. If you're listening to it on Spotify, make sure you just follow the account because it does support the channel loads. And yeah, thanks for watching, guys. Thanks for being on, Jenny. And
Thank you.
I'll see you next week. Right, bye bye.